What if Gary Bettman sat up in his office and said to himself, hey, why don't we just remove players from the NHL? I think that's a pretty stupid idea, but you never know with him, honestly. The viewership would plummet all the way down to the bottom. I mean, everybody wants to see goals, and you are allowing the least goals possible, removing all players from the NHL. But that is exactly what we are going to be doing in today's video. We are going to be removing every single player, every single skater from the NHL, and only keep the goalies, meaning that every team does not have any good players whatsoever, only goalies. I would go through every single NHL team and remove pretty much all their good players that they had on their roster, but I would keep their goaltenders. So the NHL right now basically just consists of very good goaltenders and very bad skaters. So goalies are definitely going to dominate this simulation, and we are going to simulate and see how differently that's going to impact the league moving forward. I mean, obviously it's going to have some impact, right? If you guys enjoy videos like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I post pretty much every second day. So at the end of year number 1, the Columbus Blue Jackets are actually going to end up finishing first in the entire NHL, going 58, 21, and 3, followed by the Chicago Blackhawks somehow, and the Winnipeg Jets, the Red Wings, the Flyers, Toronto was up there. At the bottom of the NHL, we have the San Jose Sharks, the Edmonton Oilers, which honestly I expected. Seattle was down there, the New York Rangers, Vegas, Calgary, LA made the playoffs, finishing 26th in the entire NHL. Bobby Butler is actually going to lead the entire NHL in points with 85, followed by Alex Nylander's 83, Fix Walikowski 80, Pedersen had 80, I don't even know who that is at 80. These names, oh my god, Olofsson was down there, Frederick Olofsson, Galchenyuk, Alex, I will end your bloodline, Galchenyuk was here, he had 23 goals and 73 assists. For defensemen, this guy is going to lead all defensemen with 73 points, Barrett Hutton, or Ben Hutton, my bad, had 69, Bernie 68, Shea Weber 68, a lot of people down here, not a lot of points, and that is to be expected when there's not a lot of good players in the NHL. Now, taking a look at goalies, Merzlikins is going to have the most wins at 48, followed by Mrazek's 43, Demko 43, Carter Hart had 42, Hellebuck 41, John Gibson was up there with 40, Darcy Kemper 38, Vegemelka had 38, Cam Talbot 36. Where the hell is Vasi? No Igor Shesterkin, there is Vasi, he had 32 wins. Sorokin would have 33. For shutouts, John Gibson is going to tie for the most with Carter Hart. They would each have 11 apiece, followed by Connor Hellebuck's 9, Marc-Andre Fleury 9, Markstrom 8, Kemper 8, Vanacek had 8. Marc-Andre Fleury would play the most games and have the best save percentage, a 928 save percentage and a 196 goals against average. And this is our year 1 playoff matchups. And in the Stanley Cup final, we have the Anaheim Ducks versus the Philadelphia Flyers. Philly is already up 1-0 over the Ducks, but who is going to go on to take home the Stanley Cup in year number 1? And in year number 1, the Philadelphia Flyers are going to go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat the Anaheim Ducks in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. Carter Hart is going to get his first Stanley Cup of his career as a starting goalie in the NHL, and there it is, Lord Stanley being presented to Philadelphia for the first time, and I don't even know how long. When was the last time Philadelphia won the Stanley Cup? Unfortunately, Carter Hart cannot go up first, and the assistant captain will have to come capture the Stanley Cup for Philly, but they are Stanley Cup champions for the first time in a very long time, so hats off to them for winning it in year number 1, and there he is, Carter Hart lifting the Stanley Cup for the very first time in his career. He's a very young goalie, and this is his very first time doing it. Alright boys, so Philly won it in year number 1. Let's simulate along and see who's going to win it next season. Patrick Brown is actually going to lead the NHL in the playoffs for points with 19, followed by Dolphins 18, Kostelic 18, White 18, Casper at 16. The rest of the Ryan Kessler was up here, 6 goals, 9 assists for 15 points in 22 games. I mean, I didn't know this guy was still in NHL 23. This dude has been retired for years at this point. His last season was 2019. For goalies, Carter Hart's going to absolutely dominate, going 16, 5, and 2 shutouts, and 927 save percentage, and a 193 goals against average. He definitely deserved the Conn Smythe, in my opinion. John Gibson had a good playoff run. Husso was up there, Demko, Merzlikins, Fleury, Samsonov, Mrazek. Pedersen is going to take home the Ted Lindsay and the Hart Trophy, while Butler's going to take home the Art Ross, and whoever this guy is going to win the Maurice Richard. Shea Weber is going to win the Norris Trophy. Alex Nylander is going to win the Lady Byng. King, the Conn Smythe to Patrick Brown, the Vezina to Marc-Andre Fleury, and A-Man is going to win the Selke. At the end of year number 2, the Winnipeg Jets are actually going to finish first in the NHL, going 57-20-5, followed by the Anaheim Ducks, the Red Wings, Chicago was up there yet again, Arizona was there, Washington, Philly, Minnesota. At the bottom of the NHL, we have the St. Louis Blues, the Seattle Kraken, the Rangers yet again, Florida was down there, and Colorado. Austin Charanek is going to lead the NHL in points with 84, also 21 goals, followed by Kachachuk, 75, Gutman, 74, Clefbaum, 71. Oscar Clefbaum is going to have 7 goals and 64 assists for 71 points. Bork is going to have 70, Dury, 68, Kuhlman, 68, Butler, 68, and Hutton, 68. By the way, nobody better flame me in the comments for absolutely butchering these names. These are hard, and most of these guys, I have no idea who they are. For goals, Marco Kasper is going to have the most at 37. Actually, he was tied with Kachachuk, followed by Kuhlman's 34, Dury, 34, Mishmash, 32, McDonough, 30. I don't even know who that is. 29, 29, and 28. For defensemen, I mean, Oscar Clefbaum was the best D-man in the entire NHL. 7 goals, 71 points. We knew that. Hutton was up there with 68. Vlasic, Edvinsson, Mackey. For goalies, Connor Hellebuck's going to break the NHL record and have 50 wins in a single season, playing 71 games, followed by Darcy Kemper's 46, Peter Mrazek 44, Vejmelka 43, Gibson 41, Vasi 39, Merzlikins 39, Freddie Anderson was up there, Ville Husso. For shutouts, Stuart Skinner's going to have the most at 14, followed by John Gibson's 13, Darcy Kemper 13, Freddie Anderson 12, Cam Talbot had 9, UC Saros 9, Vanacek 9, Samsonov 9, Markstrom 8, and this is our year 2 playoff matchups. And in the Stanley Cup final, yet again, the Anaheim Ducks are going to make it there, but they're going to be playing the Red Wings this time, who is going to go on and take home the Stanley Cup in year number 2. And after losing last season, the Anaheim Ducks are finally going to win the Stanley Cup, getting their get back as they beat the Red Wings in 6 games in the Stanley Cup final. It was a back and forth series. I mean, last year too, they lost in game 7, so it was very close, but finally they are going to win the Stanley Cup. I gotta be honest, I'm very surprised they made it back-to-back years with John Gibson as their starting goalie. There it is, Lord Stanley yet again, and here comes the captain. Actually, not a captain, not even assistant captain, but he is coming to lift the Stanley Cup. He said, screw it, man. He said, screw this, I'm going to get the cup. It's my cup, baby. Number 63 on Anaheim, and he's lifting it high and proud. I mean, as he should. Weller, is that Joe Weller? What's going on here? Of course, we had to give it off to the starting goalie, John Gibson. That looks absolutely nothing like John Gibson, but there he is, lifting the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career, even though in real life he actually wants to be traded out of Anaheim. And I mean, I don't blame the guy. Anaheim is an absolute dump right now. I mean, they have a bright future, but he's in the prime of his career. He wants to win now, and so does Teddy Long or Colin Long, whoever the hell this guy is. Edvinsson is going to lead the NHL in points for the playoffs with 19, followed by Megna's 18, Long 18, Ernie had 17, also 10 goals. Nestorenko had 17, Kasper 16, Luff 16. For goals, I mean, the most was 10 in 23 games, which is not that much, but for a 76 overall player, 10 goals in 23 games in the playoffs, not bad. For goalies, John Gibson would absolutely dominate. Oh my god, 6 shutouts, a 9.46 save percentage, and a 156 goals against average, 16-4-2. Ville Husso would have 13 wins, Carter Hart 11, Mrazek 9, Samsonov 7. I mean, basically all these goalies play very well throughout the playoffs. Darcy Kemper is actually going to take home the Ted Lindsay and the Hart Trophy, while Sarnak is going to win the Art Ross, and Kachachuk is going to take home the Maurice Richard. Edvinsson is going to win the James Norris Memorial Trophy. Conn Smythe to Megna, not John Gibson. I have no idea how. Darcy Kemper is also going to win the Vezina, and A-Man is going to win the Selke yet again. At the end of year number 3, the Chicago Blackhawks are going to finish first in the NHL, going 50, 17, and 15. My god, did they ever have a lot of overtime losses. 15 in a single season. Followed by the Anaheim Ducks, the Arizona Coyotes, Philly was up there, Columbus, Toronto, Carolina. At the bottom, it was Vegas, Seattle, and St. Louis, so the 2 expansion teams were the worst 2 teams in all of hockey. Niels A-Man is going to lead the NHL in points with 77, followed by Wayne Simmons, who had 74, also 29 goals. Caravana had 72, D'Amato 71, Olofsson 71, Nylander 69, Godovich 68. For goals, Mismash had the most at 39, followed by Ryan Kessler, who had 36, McDonough 36, Martell's 29, Wayne Simmons 29, Kuhlman 28, Kellerman 27, VL 27, Nylander 27, 67. Defenseman Shea Weber is going to have 13 goals and 67 points, the most points by any defender. For goalies, John Gibson is going to continue to dominate, 47 wins, leading all goaltenders. He would also have a 921 save percentage and a 191 goals against average, followed by Carter Hart's 45. I don't know how to say this guy's name, but Karel had 44, Mrazek 40, Samsonov at 40, Merzlikins 39, Vanacek 38, Husso 38, and Markstrom 36. For shutouts, Karel is going to have the most in the NHL. Actually, he was tied with Samsonov. They would each have 13 apiece, followed by Freddie Anderson's 12, Stuart Skinner 12, John Gibson 11, Markstrom 11, Jake Ottinger 10, Merzlikins 10, Korpisalo had 9. And in the Stanley Cup Final, we have another matchup between the Anaheim Ducks and the Philadelphia Flyers. They met way back in year number 1, I believe, and now they're meeting yet again in the Stanley Cup Final. Who is going to win the Stanley Cup in year number 3? And the Anaheim Ducks are going to go back-to-back as they beat the Philadelphia Flyers in 6 games in the Stanley Cup Final. They get the revenge over the Flyers, and they won last season as well. Made all 3 Stanley Cup Finals so far, which is absolutely insane. I did not expect that from them. And somehow the Anaheim Ducks are actually a dynasty in the simulation. There it is, Lord Stanley getting raised in Anaheim yet again. And here comes Ryan Kessler to come lift the Stanley Cup for the Anaheim Ducks, shaking Gary Bettman's hand. There he is, as the Anaheim Ducks have yet again won the Stanley Cup for the 2nd time in 2 seasons, and they've made all 3 Stanley Cup Finals. You already know we got to give the Stanley Cup to John Gibson. He's the starting goalie and the best player, by far the best player on the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, it's not even close. He's like a 90 overall, I believe. For the playoffs, Nikita Nesterenko is going to light the lamp for 10 goals and 24 points in 24 games. He's a 76 overall, followed by Magnus 23, Bork 22, Chernak 20, 19, Lachowski, Forrester 19, 19 for Long, Casier 19, White 18. For goalies, John Gibson is John Gibson. I mean, a 927 save percentage, 2 shutouts. Carter Hart had 15 wins, Mrazek, Ville Husso, Freddie Anderson, Vanacek. Man is going to win the Ted Lindsay, the Hart Trophy, while the Art Ross would also go to him, and the Maurice Richard would go to Mismatch. Shea Weber is going to win another Norris Trophy. Carter Hart is actually going to win the Vezina, and Ryan Kessler is going to take home the Selke. At the end of year number 4, the Philadelphia Flyers are going to finish first in the NHL, going 59, 15, and 8, damn near 60 wins on the season, followed by their bitter rivals, the Anaheim Ducks. They would have 56 wins. Vancouver was up there with 54, Arizona 54, Chicago 52, Winnipeg was up there, Washington, Toronto, Columbus, Buffalo. The Rangers, the Islanders, and the Bruins were the 3 worst teams in the entire NHL. Seattle was also down there, St. Louis, Tampa Bay. Wayne Simmons is going to lead the NHL in points with 78. Goddamn, that's not something I ever thought would come out of my mouth, but I guess it did. Followed by Hutton 77, McDonough 73, Brown 73, Nylander 72, McDonald 71, Kachuk or Ketchachuk, whatever hell his name is, 69, Aman 69, and Butler 69. For goals, Aiden McDonough is actually going to have the most at 41. He would score it at a 76 overall, followed by McMahon 35, Kachuk 32, Mismatch 31, Kostelik 30, Aman 30. Ryan Kessler was also up there, 29 goals, 28 assists, 57 points. But I mean, at a 76 overall, scoring 41 goals, that is mad impressive. For defenseman, Ben Hutton's going to have the most points at 77, followed by McDonald 71. Shea Weber was down there with 62. He's not going to win the Norris this year, though. Carter Hart's going to have the most wins by a goalie with 47, followed by Karel's 45, Peter Mrazek 44, Demko 44, Gibson 39. Markstrom was up there with 38, Hellebuck 37, Samsonov 37, Ville Husso. Where the hell is Andrei Vasilevsky been, man? 24 wins. He's not been putting up a lot. Peter Mrazek is going to have the most shutouts in the NHL with 14, followed by Carter Hart's 11. John Gibson had 10. Demko would have 10. Markstrom 9. Connor Hellebuck 9. Marc-Andre Fleury 8. And in the Stanley Cup Final, we have Arizona versus Buffalo. 2 teams that I never thought would meet in the Stanley Cup Final have been absolutely disastrous for the last 10 plus seasons. But who is going to take home the Stanley Cup in year number 4? And the Arizona Coyotes are going to go on and win the Stanley Cup as they beat Buffalo in 5 games in the Stanley Cup Final on absolute domination. They were by far the better team in the series. It was not even close. And believe it or not, the Coyotes are actually Stanley Cup champions. Shea Weber is going to take home the Conn Smythe for the Arizona Coyotes. And there it is, a Stanley Cup being presented in Arizona. I thought I'd never see the day, to be honest. And here comes the assistant captain, number 13 on Arizona, coming to lift the Stanley Cup. I believe that's Smith for the very first time in his career and the very first time in franchise history. As we all know, Arizona has not been very good, but now they are finally Stanley Cup champions. There's their starting goalie, Carell, lifting the Stanley Cup. He deserves it. For the playoffs, Kellerman is going to have the most points at 21, followed by Smith's 20, Eunice at 17, Barres, I don't even know how to say this name. For goals, the most goals for the playoffs was 8 goals in 25 games by Kellerman. He was tied with Smith. So for goalies, Carell is going to have 13 wins, 1 shutout, a very good playoff run, 922. Save percentage, Demko is also very good. McDonough is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, the Maurice Richard, and the Hart Trophy, while Wayne Simmons is going to win the Art Ross. Yes, Wayne Simmons is actually going to take home the Art Ross. The Norris is going to go to Seller. Darcy Kemper is going to win the Vezina, and I don't even know who this guy is, but he's going to take home the Selke. For year number 5, the Chicago Blackhawks are going to finish first in the NHL, going 56, 21, and 5, followed by Columbus, who had 53 wins, Vancouver 52, Philly had 52. The defending champs, Arizona, would have 54, the Red Wings 53, Ottawa 50, Winnipeg, New York. The Islanders are finally good. They made the playoffs. They've been at the bottom of the NHL basically the entire simulation. Speaking of the bottom of the NHL, we have the San Jose Sharks, the St. Louis Blues, the Edmonton Oilers, the LA Kings, the Rangers, Toronto. Alex Bazel is going to have the most points in the NHL at 76, followed by Alex Nylander 75, Vlasic 73, Amen 72, Kuhlman had 71, Froden had 71, Zerwerger had 70, Witherspoon, Parker Witherspoon would have 70, Nestorenko 67. Aiden McDonough is going to have 40 goals yet again, leading the entire NHL, followed by Kuhlman's 39, Pezzetta 33, Butler 31, Megna 30, Mismash had 30, Nylander 30, Smith 30, Oliver 29. For goalies, Carell is going to have the most wins at 44. He also played 71 games. That is a workhorse if I've ever seen one. Followed by Peter Mrazek's 41 wins, Carter Hart 41, Merzlikins 40, Ville Husso 40, Cam Talbot 38, Demko had 38, Georgiev 37, Gibson 36, Markstrom 36, Freddie Anderson 36. For shutouts, Peter Mrazek is going to have the most at 12, followed by UC Saros is 10, Cam Talbot 10, Hellebuck 10, Ville Husso had 9, same with Marc-Andre Fleury, Georgiev, Demko, Carell. And in the Stanley Cup final, we have the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Philadelphia Flyers. Who is going to take home the Stanley Cup in year 5? And the Chicago Blackhawks are going to win the Stanley Cup as they absolutely dominate Philadelphia in 5 games in the Stanley Cup final. They were by far the better team. It was not even close. And the Stanley Cup is going back to Chicago for the first time since 2015. They don't have Connor Bedard, don't have Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, but still somehow with Peter Mrazek, they're going to win the Stanley Cup. Cole Gutman is going to take home the Conn Smythe for Chicago. And here comes the captain of Chicago, number 24. Who is that? I can't even see, but he's going to lift the Stanley Cup for them as they are Stanley Cup champions in year number 5. This dude has a face scan. Who the hell is this? Adam Bork, is it? Who the hell is this? Regardless, he's going to pass it off to the starting goalie, the guy who has carried them all the way, Peter Mrazek, as he is a Stanley Cup champion in year number 5. For the playoffs, Patrick Brown is going to have the most goals at 9 and the most points at 23, followed by Vlasic's 20, 18, Dury had 17, Kachuk had 17, Kostelic had 17, Kasier 17, Forrester 14. For goalies, Jacob Markstrom is going to have the most shutouts at 2, Peter Mrazek would also have 2, Cam Talbot 2, Carter Hart 2. Bazzelli is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy, while the Maurice Richard is going to go to McDonough. Vlasic's going to win the Norris, UC Saros is going to win the Vezina, and the Selke is going to go home with Amen yet again. And that is going to do it for this video, boys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This video was strictly for all you goalie heads out there. I wanted to see the goalies dominate, and well, they kind of did. I mean, I expected more, honestly, but still, overall, I'm very happy. We saw the Anaheim Ducks make 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, winning 2 of them, becoming a dynasty in the NHL, something I thought I'd never see. Anyways, boys, thank you all for watching, and until next time, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.